Wow. Nicely done, Marcus. I did not know that was coming, and I know you're getting a salute somewhere in San Rafael.
I had to get one last rejoin in for Paulie Mack, man.
So here's the thing I'm going to do right now, because this is going to lead us up to the end of the show. So I'm going to tell you right now, the face-off with Papa and Lund, when it's time for a change. Think speedy oil change and auto service, your trusted oil change, tune-up, and brake experts. And I love that predated my ode to Paulie Mack there. So here's the story. It happened Wednesday after our show. Shocked, numb, whatever. And I'm so shocked and so numb that I'm trying to remember when I sat down to do this. It was either Thursday or Friday. But I was sitting around and I just opened the laptop and I just started to write. So that's what I do, right? That's what I do. So these are my thoughts on Paulie Mack. And this is how I want to end today's show. So as I said, I'm sitting here thinking about the first time I met Paulie Mack. Okay. And I don't know if you guys know this origin story, but it goes all the way back to, and how Paulie Mack is this, it goes all the way back to a VHS tape, okay? A VHS tape. Kids, that's what went into VCRs, okay? That's how far back. That's what Paulie rolled like. It's a VHS tape of the 1988 NFC Championship game at Soldier Field, 49ers at Soldier Field, which might be Paulie Mack's favorite 49er game ever. Or, as I wrote on Friday before, maybe the 89 game at Philly, Joe with the 4 touchdowns, or maybe the Monday night win over his hated New York Giants in 1990. Either way, back in 2005, okay, 2005, in the hallways at 55 Hawthorne, down the street here, a 107.7 The Bone DJ named Paulie Mack, who I had seen in the hallways and looked very Irish-Italian to my eyes. I was like, that guy looks very Irish-Italian. Turns out he was. He said to me in very Paulie Mack ways, he goes, I'm going to need a piece of you. I think we speak the same language. And I'm like, this guy seems kind of friendly and funny. I didn't know him at all. And he motions me into the old creative studio where Tony and all those guys worked. And he had the 88 NFC Championship queued up. And I immediately went nuts. And we bonded. And I remember specifically the first plays we saw, there was a tackle made and an ISO shot of old Niner D lineman Larry Roberts. And I was like, look at Larry Roberts. And Paulie Mack's like, Larry Blanken Roberts. And I was like, I like this guy. Okay, I like this guy. Okay, so because Larry Roberts was not a well-known Niner, but Paulie and I knew Larry Roberts, right? So that was part one. Then, probably the most important guy in my professional life, a man named Tony Salvador. Tony, what's up? The man who truly loved the medium of radio more than anyone who ever walked under the KNBR roof. Loved the medium of radio. Now, he was also a businessman, and he would say, the gross is not the net. All right, so he got that. But he also was a romantic, and he had an idea. So I had started in November of 2004 with a very nice and capable pro partner named Tim Liotta. But apparently Tony in the corner office, Salvador, thought something was missing from the show. That was his take. And so when Tim took vacation, Christmas of 2005, Tony told me, you're going to have this kid Paulie Mack sit in with you. And my life changed. My life changed. I would say that I think many lives in the Bay Area changed. Because that day, Paulie Mack walked in with a guitar. I did not anticipate this. He came in with a guitar and just slung it over. And I'll never forget when our weekly hit with Warriors voice Tim Roy was coming up. Mind, the Warriors were terrible, by the way. Those hits were not that easy. Paulie whipped out the guitar and made up a ditty on the spot, his very first Paulie Mack song. I'll never forget it, and I'm going to sing it for you right now because I was flabbergasted. He said, Tim Roy, he ain't no boy. Tim Roy, he ain't no boy. Tim Roy made his fame calling that Warrior game. Tim Roy, he ain't no boy. So like, this guy's different, right? This guy's different, Paulie Mack. Well, later that week in Christmas, there was a long hallway at KNBR, and there was a mailbox at the end and our little lousy office at the end. And I walked out of the office, and down the long hallway was Tony Salvador getting his mail. And he was in his tie, and he turned to me, and he said, hey. And he pointed to me, and I said, what? He goes, big smile. He goes, Murph and Mack. And that was the moment it was born. So thank you, Tony Salvador. We owe you everything. So I can tell you another quick story here. At one point, and I've told this one on the air a lot, at one point in my many sessions in Tony's corner office, which, by the way, had a view of the Bay Bridge, old school radio, he would point to the radio on his desk. and he would say, "You see that box? Magic can come out of that box." Okay? And I tell you that story, because I've told it before, because Paulie Mack may have been the guy who understood that idea more than anyone I've ever met in the business. From our official start date of February 2006 to Wednesday, November 29, 2023, Paulie Mack strived every single segment to make magic come out of the box. And he succeeded wildly, okay? He was the most consistent, energetic, comic, relentless pro that I or any of you would ever want in your life. He taught this old newspaper guy that we were doing radio, and radio mattered, and bits mattered, and getting people through the morning mattered. The show, always the show. What's good for the show. Not what's good for him, not what's good for me. What's good for the show. So what a journey we went on. Me and Paulie Mack and here we go. Pebble Beach, all those years. Shout out Steve John and the late, great R.J. Harper. So many Scottsdales. Oh, my God, so many Scottsdales. How many Hotel California sunrises did we announce? The sun coming over the McCormick Mountains. And when we had the dough, Super Bowls in Miami, New Orleans, Dallas, Phoenix. The Giants trips. Guys, we went on a limo ride with listeners to Dodger Stadium from San Francisco. One of our great trips. Signature trips to Fenway and Wrigley. Trip to Philly when Carlos Beltran got traded to the Giants. A throw-in trip to St. Louis out of nowhere in 2021. And, of course, 2010 in Texas and 2014 in Kansas City. Now, you'll have to talk to Lee Hammer about Detroit in 2012 because Lee Hammer said no. So my kid, who's a pretty thoughtful kid now, asked me to define a moment with Paulie Mack. He said, "Dad, can you define a moment with Paulie?" And when you get those big moment questions, it's always hard because it's easy to go to the biggest ones. Like I'd love to come up with some super cool, unique moment, but I mean, things that came to mind were our final conversation with a dying Dwight Clark, emotionally mourning the passing of Willie McCovey on the air the next morning. That was heavy. And those were meaningful, but I don't think anything will ever top being with Paulie Mack arm in arm in Texas in 2010 and in Kansas City in 2014. He had no objection to me narrating the final outs of the 2010 World Series, and he never judged me for crying, which I did. And wow, guys, if I close my eyes right now, it's like a dream. He and I standing on a concrete perch in Kansas City, because we didn't have a seat. The auxiliary press box was too far. We came outside in the cold, jackets up, standing on a concrete perch, Game 7, and we could still see the bullpen gates swing open. And on the finely manicured grass of that Kansas City outfield, Madison Bumgarner walking out. I can still see it emblazoned. And then after the game, into the Champagne Clubhouse, we slipped into Boch's office, and Bruce Bochy putting a big paw on each of our shoulders and saying, "Hey, guys, thanks for coming." And Jake Peavy's family doing champagne-laden Alabama stomps to the sounds of Sturgill Simpson. And then me and Paulie slipping back out to the field to take a picture, probably around midnight, alone on the field. There was 2 other people on the field, a photographer and Madison Bumgarner standing on the mound holding the trophy. So we had to let them take the picture first, and then they went away, and we took our picture. So, yeah, you never forget that. Those are the moments. Paulie Mack was the kind of wingman who you talk to every morning during a pandemic, down the line, through a headset, and you still felt his rhythms and timing and comedy and emotions and memories, making our lists, our all-time games attended, or our all-time inspirations. Paulie Mack's the kind of guy who you love so much you hire Phil Simms to wish him a happy birthday. Okay, guys, so why did this happen, right? I mean, why does any of this happen? I know higher-ups don't want to talk about it. business is probably a good guess. I don't know. Paulie was part of a dark day at KNBR with FP Tantangelo and the legendary Lee Hammer and Danny Emmerman and Jacob Hutchinson from Digital, all valuable people, all let go. Business is a cold thing. There's no sentiment in capitalism. And I have to take a drink of water. My hands are shaking. But any abrupt end to our run cannot replace the memories and the laughs. And we say to all of you listeners who reached out on social media, my God, with your childhood memories or your middle school memories or your high school memories or your memories of your family growing up listening to Murph and Mac in the background, like, wow. Our hearts are full knowing that you have been there. Our hearts are full. So I love Markus Boucher. I do. I really do. And I do look forward to our time together. And like I said earlier this morning, we kept it in the family. We kept it in the family. And we will be here for you every morning. But Markus knows what Paulie meant to this time slot, to this community. I mean, Paulie Mac is the kind of guy who can root for you as you and your wife battle the struggle to have a baby and infertility issues that are really hard. And him always hugging you and telling you that particles will get you through and that you will have a family. Paulie was sure of it. Ori helps mourning the loss of your mom and your dad along the way with those big Paulie Mac hugs. You know those big Paulie Mac hugs. Or welcoming your baby boy that he assured we would have with a homemade Paulie Mac lasagna. And then be that same guy who turns around and creates a Jim Tomsula tribute to Rush's Tom Sawyer or a Tim Lincecum tribute to Van Halen's Panama or a Rick Celebini tribute to Falco's Amadeus or a Warriors team tribute to George Harrison's My Sweet Love or a Mike Yastrzemski tribute to Right Said's Fred's I'm Too Sexy, or one of his many, many Steph Curry tributes, highlighted by his boys from Kiss singing Beth, right? Well, you know the deal. You guys have your favorites. So I'm winding down now, and I might be getting out a minute early, so Papa and Lund could maybe come on a minute early, but I'll just say this. Paulie Mac was my favorite, and I will end this tribute by speaking to him in the language he knows best. And so while it's never goodbye, as my grandpa told me, never goodbye, only so long, Paulie, let's let Robert Hunter say, fare you well, fare you well. I love you more than words can tell. Listen to the river, sing sweet songs to rock my soul. And this is KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.